Yeah, I think it just worked out like that today, but I don't think that's going to be a norm.
What is going on, Gen Nation?
What's up?
We're live on Twitch. Because of the train wreckness, if you could see my shirt.
There it is. Nice.
Because of the train wreck quality, right now I'm kind of handcuffed to stream on one platform until I can figure out my internet. So Twitch it is. And then I'll put it up. It'll go up on YouTube either tomorrow or Thursday. So you will not miss it for anyone who likes to listen to it in the car. So on and so forth. I've been watching Sopranos, so I'm trying to talk like them now. So on and so forth.
So forth.
So what's up, guys? Zuplex and Scythe.
What
up? How you doing?
So we had a heated debate that we'll get into in a little bit, but before we do, right now it's kind of a quiet time, right? There's like a little bit of a lull in the new content or new shows. The newest big dog on the market right now is Willow. And clearly Disney was like, look, no one's going to watch this if it's competing with a Marvel thing. So let's just put it out when nothing else is here. Smart move, in my opinion. So I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet, but I know Zuplex, you gave it a shot already. So I figured we'll start off. Let us know your thoughts on Willow.
So I think you guys should watch it. Like, it's definitely different from every other type of fantasy show or movie or anything like that. The main difference is it doesn't seem to be taking itself too seriously in the fantasy world.
That's a good thing.
Nice.
Which is a good thing. It kind of like the dialogue is kind of like modern without like slang, but like they don't talk like certain shows that we've gotten recently. It's not like watching a Shakespearean high school play or anything like that. It's not like, oh, where art thou, Willow? We must find thy Willow. You know,
but it's not too modern, right? Because like the problem is the dialogue is too like modern, then it kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah, it's not too modern where it's like, you know, let's go down to the store. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's centered around a group of kids. All the characters are super likable. The first episode kind of gives you a recap of Willow the movie, which I think was much needed. And then they kind of like they use a few flashbacks of footage of the movie to kind of nail down, like, I guess parts where it's not like overly flashback, but it's to the point where, okay, this is why you should care about this, or this is why this character is kind of feeling like this.
Okay.
You know,
now,
so it's a
follow-up question. I got a follow-up question for you. How much of the original do you need to know in order to enjoy this? Or if you don't remember the original at all, are you still having fun?
Much. I mean, I had fun with it. I don't remember a lot of the original. I was meaning to watch the original before, excuse me, before I went and dove into this. I didn't get a chance to. And they really sum up the original relatively quickly in the first episode and kind of just drop you into where they are now.
That's good. Because I remember as a kid, I remember the original would come on and I'd be like so amped about it. But it's been a long time since I've watched it or read about it. I really don't know much about what to expect. So
it's been so long for me that I don't even remember if I watched it or not, and I'm pretty sure I didn't. But because the main character looks familiar, but it could be from various other things he's done.
Like Warwick Davis looks familiar, or one of the other characters looks familiar. Warwick Davis is the little person.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Willow.
Yeah, but he looks familiar because he basically there's a movie with a little person. He's been in it. Like, I mean,
right.
He's all
that's what
Harry
I'm saying.
Potter.
Like, I know the guy, but I don't know if it's because I know Willow or just the guy. You know what I mean?
Just
it's been that long, so I don't. I mean,
I'm sure you've seen. I'm sure you've also seen like pictures of Willow throughout the years because it would pop up in various different like 80s themed movies or TV shows or whatever. Like I know, what was that weird show on ABC with the kid? It was all set in the 80s.
Wonder Years?
No, the Goldbergs. Like they did a whole Willow episode.
I never watched that.
Yeah, I mean the show was kind of bad, but I mean
the show was kind of bad.
They would do themed episodes of like different shit from the 80s. So I think for someone that's never watched it, jumping into this is perfectly fine. The characters are super likable.
Right.
They're very likable. The chick from Captain America, Falcon Winter Soldier is in it. The one that plays
the bad guy. Yeah.
She's in it. She's great. So far, like they dropped 2 episodes, I had a lot of fun watching them. And it's not like it's evenly paced. It's nothing slow. There isn't a lot of setup. It's fantasy for people that don't like fantasy.
Okay, so that's you, Fred.
I never said I didn't like fantasy.
I know. But just kind of keeping with the fantasy theme, right? I figured since Willow's kind of the only thing that's out, I wanted to stick with that. And we'll start with you, Scythe.
Real quick.
Real
quick. I know Willow's out and everything like that. We're doing a fantasy themed show here, but if you guys haven't watched Wednesday,
I want Netflix, to. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
I gave it a chance. I wasn't like really looking forward to it or anything like that. Jump on that because it is fun.
I heard it was good.
I heard it was very good.
That's amazing.
That's one of those shows though that I have to watch with the wife because she wants to see it. So it's like.
So in other words, it's gonna take 7 months to get through it.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, but it's definitely
in a way
really good. It's definitely worth watching. It's a lot of fun.
A little peek into my personal life. My wife doesn't like anything that has nothing to do with like real world. So if it's not something that can happen like tomorrow, she gets bored of it immediately. She just doesn't like it. So it's a blessing and a curse. I can't really enjoy anything with her. I got her to watch all the Marvel movies, and that was like, pushing it. But I can watch all the fantasy, sci-fi nerd shit I want without having to wait and never feel guilty about it. So
there you go.
I'll fly through Wednesday when I sit down to watch it. I have heard it's good. I will say that. I like Addams Family, I like the movies and stuff, but I'm not like some diehard Addams Family fan. So as far as like whether or not it follows the lore like that, I could care less. So I'll give it a shot. I've heard it's good from every single person who's watched it. Not one person's told me it's dumb.
Same.
Yeah. It's definitely like it's set in like her going to a high school. So it's got like that high school setting, but it's a lot of fun. It doesn't take it like too seriously. It's a great story going through the whole season, and like I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Gotcha.
Like, I threw it on because I had nothing else to watch, and I was just like, let's see what this is about.
Right.
I'm falling in love with it. So
we'll give it a shot. Like I said, there's not much out there, and Willow's coming out on a weekly basis. So I mean, once you catch up on Willow, you got to wait a week. So you have a whole week to catch up on Wednesday.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for The Last of Us at this point. I'm so amped for that show.
Just before we get into the first like kind of question I want to throw out there, there's a few things. So John Wick 4, there's some footage roaming around the internet that Keanu Reeves showed recently. What's up, Buttersworth? Thanks for jumping into the stream. And
what up,
first chat of the stream, I see you have a little badge next to your name, so thank you for that. The Last of Us, if you haven't yet, Scythe and I did a reaction to that trailer. Carmine, I don't know if you've seen that reaction we did or just seen the trailer, but I have a feeling that's going to be like just one of the greatest shows.
Kiss.
I mean, listen, we're biased, right? We're gamers and all that stuff, and we love the story that The Last of Us has anyway. But that trailer just really looks amazing, dude.
To give us credit, we're biased gamers, but we shit on a lot of adaptations. We're not just gung-ho like, oh, this is amazing because it's a video game story. No, we're pretty critical.
We want the best version of it. You know what I mean? Like I shit a lot on the last Mortal Kombat movie, and I know a lot of people who love it. But to me, so we will tear it apart. Honestly, if it doesn't hold up to our standards, our high lofty standards.
I mean, everything we've seen so far from it seems like it's going to be a home run. So. Yeah. But we thought that about the Halo trailer too. So.
That's the thing. All the trailers for Halo looked sick too, and then it turned out that it was one of the worst shows ever created for mankind.
And they started episode 1 with a bang, and you're like, "All right, this series is going to be amazing." And then it was like, "Beep."
I will say
it's like the fastest nosedive I've ever seen.
I was just going to say that it may hold the record for fastest, like just trash dive.
They blew the budget on the first episode, and we're like, "We're good."
Oh, I don't even want to.
We don't need to CGI the helmet anymore. Just leave the helmet off them.
I remember the first episode ended, and I literally thought to myself, "This is going to be the best video game adaptation I've ever seen." Like I was just so into it as not a big Halo fan. And then
Quan Ha came.
It was like I want to say within the first 10 minutes, I'll give it of episode 2. I literally could just feel myself deflate and then it just kept getting smaller and smaller. And and then Quan Ha just ruined the whole show. And now Quan Ha was so bad, not to go on a Halo rant, that I use it to describe other things that have the same kind of nonsense pacing.
Facts.
It's the Quan Ha effect. But anyway, speaking of bad sci-fi, before we get into the question, I do want to thank the Facebook group. Everyone on the Facebook group, I appreciate you all, and you guys are all geniuses, obviously. I put up a poll yesterday. Are fantasy and sci-fi the same genre? Because Scythe and our man John, the captain, both wanted to battle me that they're the same genre, they mean the same thing. And
I can't believe this was even an argument.
Well, so 20 votes say that they were not the same genre. They're two different genres.
You can make that 21.
All right, 21. There's actually 8 people in the Facebook group that say that they basically fall into the same category. It's not a big deal. So 8 votes is more than I expected.
Those are 8 people that'll follow John off a cliff. They don't count.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So, but I appreciate you guys for basically just giving me the win there, because I don't get the win all the time with these guys. And yeah, I appreciate it. So sticking with the sci-fi fantasy comment, I wanted to throw it out to you guys. Scythe, we'll start with you since I jumped to Carmine before. What would you say, and I'm going to keep it as 2 separate genres, just to torture you. What would you say is the absolute best moment in any fantasy movie? And pick one for sci-fi as well. I'm kind of curious what moment you guys would go for.
Yeah, but he thinks they're the same genre, so does he only get one?
No, he'll get 2 then. Well, I'm interested to see if he picks 2 fantasy movies.
I don't know, man. Go Carmine first.
All right, go ahead.
I got to think on that.
Go ahead, Carmine.
So with fantasy, I'm not a huge fantasy fan.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously, everyone knows what you thought of Lord of the Rings. I mean, Jesus.
Oh, God, it's the worst. But I'll say this, is that I guess my favorite scene in any or moment in any fantasy project would be the Battle of the Bastards, and it's got nothing to do. It's got no fantasy elements.
There's no magic. Well, there's a giant. There is a giant in there, so I guess that makes sense. That's and a direwolf. So that's the magic part.
The Battle of the Bastards was so well done.
You went TV. I mean, and I can't argue that, because that was such a phenomenal, one of the best battle scenes.
It's such a great scene. The way they shot it, the way you feel like you're in.
I don't even think I've seen that.
Well, that was in Game of Thrones, so that was like season 7.
Oh, that makes sense.
Game of Thrones.
That makes sense.
That.
I mean, it's one of the most like amazing yet claustrophobic, uncomfortable scenes to watch, because you feel like you're drowning with them in the mud.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're fighting with them in the mud. It was such an amazing feat of giving us something in a show that you never thought you'd see.
Just to kind of paint the picture, Scythe, it's called the Battle of the Bastards because it's basically 2 armies going at it, led by somebody who's a bastard on both sides, or one of them was a bastard, but that's going into more detail than you need. But during the battle, there's basically a scene where once the good guys basically are losing, they're surrounded by the bad guys. They all basically have to run in one. They're trying to kind of break through this barrier of people. They get stopped and they run the other way. So you have 2 sides of this group just converging in the middle. And the suffocation he's talking about is the main character that we're following is dead middle of it. He gets knocked over, and then he's just trying to claw his way through this pile of bodies that is just on top of him because he can't breathe. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why that scene stands out, because in all these big battles with hundreds and thousands of fighters and blah blah blah, we've never seen that. That has to be something that happens a little bit more regularly when you have that many people battling, and we've never seen something like that. And I remember even myself it was like hard to watch because it was so like intense,
Yeah.
Buttersworth says Zuplex secretly loves Lord of the Rings. I don't know, man. I don't know. He's pretty adamant and consistent.
Yeah, he's pretty adamant.
He's pretty consistent. So that's your fantasy pick. What would be your sci-fi pick?
So, I mean, there's so many to choose from with sci-fi. Like, there's so many great, amazing.
Yeah, this is too hard for me, to be honest.
Moments in sci-fi, but I'd have to say, hard pressed.
See, I have one that's a little more obscure.
All right, what's yours? What's yours, Chris?
So
I know my favorite. I know my favorite pure sci-fi movie is, but it doesn't have any like huge moments.
Well, what's the movie? Well, I want to know that. What's your favorite? Your favorite pure sci-fi movie?
Is The Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element. Okay.
Yeah, like out of pure sci-fi space opera, like that is sci-fi. That embodies the term sci-fi to me 100%.
Right, and there really is no. I mean, listen, it's a great movie, but there's no like super epic like, scene or something that happens. Super
epic scene in it. You know what? Actually, like, my favorite probably the best sci-fi scene ever is T2. T2 when the Terminator gets melted and he's coming through and he's the skeleton robot.
That's like, a good choice.
That's so iconic that's got to be up there. You know.
But now, so Fred, you would say T2 can also be considered a fantasy movie?
I mean, why not?
Because it's
all made up shit.
Yeah, but we have cyborgs in real life. There's cyborgs in real life. That one Boston college or whatever, you know, they create robots constantly, and they're pretty close to being assassins. I mean, like
they're getting closer and closer.
They're getting closer and closer to building their own Terminator. We're going to see a TV.
My thing is more of they're more similar than they're different. So I don't know.
All right. I mean, that's a separate question. I mean, I guess I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't argue that they're so different. No, like my thing is the things that make fantasy specifically, and the things that make sci-fi is one is rooted in magic and one is rooted in science. But like the idea, the creativity behind it, because you know a lot of people will say that like magic, you know, is just science that we haven't figured out yet. So like you know, when you think of it like that, I kind of agree that they're not so different, but I still would say they're two separate genres. They're not the same genre. You know what I mean? But I can tell you mine. Have you guys ever seen a movie called District 9?
Yes.
So
it was a good movie.
The end of that movie, specifically when Wickus, the main character, comes back to save Christopher and basically is just amping himself up and just yelling how he's not scared and he's just fighting everyone off and whatever. I remember going in a theater to see that movie, not really expecting much. The trailers made it look like a found footage thing, so I was just kind of thinking it might be entertaining. And it was just fucking an amazing movie. It really just hooked me. But that scene, I never expected him to just kind of turn around and become this like badass. He was just like a pussy the whole time. And that whole final scene when he catches the missile, like that to me was one of the most epic sci-fi moments in any sci-fi movie I've seen. Like that was so good. I still remember the feeling there. But I mean, I could go the obvious route, right, and pick Star Wars or something. You know, Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
Star Wars is one I think is one of the very few franchises that plays in both fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah, Star Wars for sure does.
Like for me, like lightsabers is sci-fi, force powers is fantasy.
Rules 11. Thanks for jumping into the stream. A brand new follower of the Twitch channel. Her and I were talking yesterday, and I think you saw some of the MVP podcast that Scythe was doing. Thanks for jumping in. Right now, we're talking about some of our favorite moments from sci-fi or a fantasy movie. And really, you know, can sci-fi and fantasy, are they the same genre or are they two different genres? So let us know your opinion in the chat when you get a chance. But go ahead, Carmine. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Star Wars is a blend because it's not real locations. There's magic involved, aka the Force, but then you have a lot of science, which is
we're gonna ignore the midi-chlorians. The Force is magic.
And
space wizards.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so you have like droids and you know what's the name? Like Luke's hand, robotic hand.
Right.
Like
and all of Vader.
Yeah, so exactly. So it's just it's a mixture of both. So that one's just
that one's a bad example because that falls in
fantasy.
Both. Yeah, I think technically it would be a sci-fi movie with fantasy elements. Like I think that's how they would describe it. If you know, if you had to be specific.
And then what would you describe like a comic book movie? Like
see that. So that was going to be one of my questions that I didn't tell you guys. I was going to throw it out there and kind of send you off guard a little bit. So what do you consider like the Marvel, the MCU? Are those science?
It's kind of the same. It's sci-fi fantasy.
It is kind of right because you have your wizards, right? Your Doctor Stranges, your Wongs.
There's magic, Scarlet Witch. You have witches, but it's just
here's where I'm at with the MCU is that each movie is a different genre, in my opinion.
I think
because
I can go with that.
Like Captain America, Winter Soldier, perfect example, right?
Sci-fi.
That's neither. I don't think it's either. I think it's a political thriller.
Well, political thriller, sure, but like, we don't have helicarriers that can kill
Captain America and the Winter Soldier were a scientific experiment.
Right. They took a serum to get super strong.
Right.
But I'm saying the basis of the movie isn't all of those things. It's basically a political thriller.
I don't disagree with that.
Right?
It's that sci-fi
right,
elements.
but that
with that
Multiverse
of Madness, when you break it down, is really a horror movie.
Right, but
fucking Dr.
The problem though is like
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah,
Garbage.
you talk about
I'm just saying that
Ant-Man.
I think
Ant-Man's a perfect example. It's a heist movie through and through, right?
Right.
It's a heist movie. Ant-Man itself is a scientific masterpiece.
Right.
It's all science.
It's sci-fi.
So
it's a heist movie with sci-fi
that
elements.
doesn't mean it's sci-fi, right? That just means it's got science involved in it.
No, but that's science fiction, made up science.
Right.
So that's,
I mean, barely. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying Mission
barely.
Impossible.
I feel like
Like,
you and
That's
I
like
are on
saying
the
that
same
Mission
page here, but I
Impossible.
feel like you're almost trying to make it sound bad. I mean, there is sci-fi.
No,
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that all right, Mission Impossible. So that's basically a political thriller or a heist movie or whatever you want to call it. But he's got all these gadgets that are science fiction. That doesn't make Mission Impossible a science fiction movie. James Bond,
that example,
he's in a science fiction movie because he's got missiles that could shoot out of his car, and that's science and fiction also. Like that's
not fiction though. There are missiles that can shoot out of a vehicle. I believe that exists.
Yeah, it's more I think I think it comes down to practicality. Like, is it a practical thing that would actually be
right
believable in real life?
Like
where
could it happen?
Ant-Man, we're not believing
Right.
there's a suit out there that shrinks you down or blows you up. Like,
I mean,
I think
you're right.
that's where it comes down to.
That to me, that's where the sci-fi genre. I kind of agree, I guess, and this does agree with you, Carmine. That's where you draw the line. You know what I mean? Like, if you think to yourself, 10 years, 20 years from now, can they act? Do you think they're going to be able to do that? If the answer is yes, then it's not sci-fi. It's just science, and
I guess
we're working towards it. But if you're never going to do it, then
I guess for me, the genre of the movie isn't what is in the movie, but more along the lines of what the plot revolves around.
Yeah, or the feeling of the movie is what I would
kind of. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
yes,
again, like Ant-Man, yes, there's sci-fi elements to it where he grows and goes small, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a heist movie. It's not really a sci-fi movie,
right?
Like when I think of
sci-fi heist,
heist.
When I think of sci-fi movies, I'm thinking of The Fifth Element, Event Horizon, Terminator. Like all of these movies that really were.
Would you say like Day After Tomorrow, like all the catastrophe movies? Would those all be science fiction?
No, they're disaster movies. They have their own genre.
That's all. Yeah, it's its own genre.
There's its own genre.
There's a whole
even though it's all science.
Yeah, well, I guess science is rooted in it, but there's a whole genre for like when the world is just falling apart.
Movies. Yeah, they're called Roman Emmerich movies.
Buttersworth says, like I said before, it's like Frodo putting on the ring and becoming the Predator. If Hollywood wants an idea for a movie that I would definitely go watch, it's that. Let Frodo put the ring on and then start hunting down orcs with that shoulder laser. I would be there for that in a heartbeat. Yeah. Fighting off fucking Sauron with those claws. Come on, dude, that'd be amazing. Yeah. That'd be amazing. But so now, all right. So we said our sci-fi one.
This way, comic book, like the MCU to me is just comic book movies. Like superhero movies are their own genre at this point. There's so many of them. Like it's not like back in the day when.
See, this is where we fall. Sorry to cut you off. This is where we fall into like weird subgenres and like where it all branches out. I feel like because it's all the same thing, but they each have their own element that makes them different from each other.
Well, it's all fiction. See, when you say it's all the same thing, I that to me doesn't sound right. It's all fiction.
No, but if we're talking about like superhero movies, like. Well, just because it's a superhero movie, they're by themselves. Like I don't know.
No, but they can borrow elements. You know what I mean? It's just like music, right? You mix different genres of music. You wouldn't say hip hop and pop are the same thing. They're two different genres, but they mix.
Movies is not so big that they're just their own category now.
Well, that's true. I mean,
there's just so many of them. The MCU is so big. The DC movies are so big that, like, at this point, it's really their own genre.
I do think I would say my favorite from a fantasy movie, and this might be a little obscure also. Have you guys ever watched Warcraft? The movie?
Yes.
No.
So there's a scene in that Scythe. It's honestly,
I cannot believe you're about to say Warcraft as your favorite fantasy.
Well, it's one of my favorite fantasy scenes from a fantasy movie. It's an underrated movie. Okay, screw you. I don't play Warcraft, but it's a really good movie though. It's much better than people give it credit for. Specifically the magic portion, but there's actually a scene where the main character, Travis Flamel, who was from Vikings, who's the main character, he was Ragnar in Vikings. He basically watches his kid get killed by this orc general or whatever. He gets captured. All kinds of shit happens. He basically, I don't know, I forget exactly how it happens, but he has to go one-on-one with this general, and he's just staring this guy down. And the orc is huge and stronger and whatever, and he kills him in one shot. And the way he does it is just cool. And then afterwards, everyone just shows him the respect of like, yeah, you know what, you got yours, man. And like they let him go. Like it's just a phenomenal scene. It's really, really well done. So that's probably one of my favorite.
I mean, that was a good scene. That was a good scene.
It's great. I mean, listen, the movie is underrated. It's not the greatest fantasy movie ever. I didn't
bother because I didn't play the game. I just like, eh.
That's why I bothered, because I didn't play the game. Because I knew if I played the game, there's no way I was liking that movie. I don't know anything about the lore, and I could just tell from the trailer. I'm like, there's no way they did this justice. But
you know what I think is an underrated sci-fi movie that not a lot of people have seen,
what?
or that got destroyed for whatever reason. I don't know why people thought it was
Starship Troopers.
Amazing sci-fi.
I love Starship Troopers, but I feel like it's just one of those. It's just one of those movies that people hate it, but like it. If you actually watched it, you love it. I don't know.
Yeah,
no, I love that movie so much. It's such an entertaining, stupid little popcorn flick. People gotta watch it.
Amazing. No, but Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets.
I really didn't like that movie too much. I mean, it wasn't the worst I've ever seen, but I feel like it almost expected itself to be
when it
so
comes
big,
to like,
and it just was like,
when it comes to like pure sci-fi, like those are the type of movies I think of.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. But let me ask you this question then. Let's just going by the answer that sci-fi and fantasy are two separate genres, but they can share, aspects. Where does The Matrix fall?
Sci-fi.
So you think though, because I feel like the fact that with Neo being able to do whatever he wants and fly, and even in the real world, be able to stop
see, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. It's sci-fi until Neo does his stuff outside in the real world. Then it becomes fantasy.
Movie 1 is full sci-fi, and then 2 and 3 starts to become more fantasy.
Yeah, like the fact that he can stop machines with his hands in the real world, that just makes it fantasy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, The Matrix is a tough one because it got so convoluted towards number 3 anyway.
We're going to ignore that the fourth one exists. We're just going to stick with the first 3.
Yeah, but for me, like the original first Matrix is all straight sci-fi.
I don't disagree with that, yeah. I mean, the whole, and they explain it in the movie. That's one of the negatives about the movie, that they have to explain all the friggin' science. It's like, just tell us he can do shit. let's just move on.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, man.
Architect scene and
wait, Fred never gave us. Fred never gave us his favorites.
I don't know, man. It's all a jumbled mess in my head, so I can't pick one out.
We've seen so many of them. I would think that there's probably more sci-fi movies, in my opinion, that have gained an audience versus fantasy. Fantasy seems to, you have your Lord of the Rings, but there's not a lot out there that pulls it.
I mean, to blend the two and
audiences.
Yeah. To blend the two and take the easy way out, I would have to say Luke coming back in The Mandalorian. That was one of my favorite moments of any Star Wars thing. Like just that happening was a great moment for me. So I don't know. It's a cop out, but
see, now then that brings me to like Darth Vader's Rogue One scene. That might take the cake for the best sci-fi moment. You know what I mean? That's a sick scene too. I don't know.
I was trying to stay away from Star Wars because it's so
obvious.
In the middle. Well, no, because it's so in the middle of the two genres that like I feel like if I'm gonna pick the best sci-fi, I want it to be from a pure sci-fi movie.
Well, what would be probably the most obscure sci-fi movie that you've watched that you could think of? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot now. I just thought of this question off the top of my head. We've seen a lot of movies, I'm sure, and I'm sure we've seen a lot of million genres.
I can go real obscure with this, but I mean,
like what is would you consider like Johnny Mnemonic really obscure?
That's pretty obscure, but I don't think that's that obscure because it had Keanu in it.
Right, but that's before Keanu was Keanu. I mean, at
I'm
that point he
thinking
only
more-
did Bill and Ted.
Yeah, Equilibrium.
Equilibrium
Bill
is a
and Ted.
fantastic movie, dude.
That's up there. Existence.
Yeah, it's
Is
another
Bill
one.
and Ted a comedy, sci-fi, fantasy?
I would think so. I think it falls into all three. Although maybe more, no, not fantasy though. Really, just sci-fi. There's no magic in it. Really,
I guess. Right? Yeah.
It's really more.
Unless you
sci-fi.
count the magic of music.
Now here's a big question: do you consider Harry Potter sci-fi?
No, it's fantasy. 100%.
But does it have any sci-fi elements?
No.
That's what I thought too.
I don't know. I don't watch Harry Potter, so I couldn't tell you.
So Harry Potter is an example of one of the movies that has a book that has one of the would have been the greatest fantasy scene ever made that they just fucked up in the movie.
So here's sorry to cut you off. That you just like pop something in my head. So the Harry Potter book, what area in the bookshelf is that sitting on?
That's fantasy, or maybe young adult.
Probably young adult.
Yeah, probably young adult. Undying Beast 94. Thanks for jumping into this chat. He says, "Nice stream." I'll take it.
Hey, appreciate that.
Appreciate you. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it would be in the young adult, but I think it would
I guess it would be fantasy. Yeah.
I guess it would be in fantasy. Yeah. I mean, a lot of those. See, like now, books is really where fantasy thrives, right? Because there's so many. Yeah. There's so many fantasy, like.
Yeah, they can't really translate it to the visual medium as well, because I think one of the biggest thing with fantasy is, kind of the emotion and the feeling involved behind the characters, and unless you just flat out say it every time they get upset or something, you can't really show that.
I think it also comes down to like, a lot of times the book series for fantasy are very, very long.
Yes.
Like Wheel of Time is a perfect example. Like Wheel of Time has like 26 books, somewhere around there. Like,
yeah, I mean, lore is a huge thing, right, with the fantasy novels and stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of these book series, they have like one book about the elves, one book about the dwarves, one book about this, and then like this happens and that happens, and it's just an ongoing, like never-ending series of just fantasy books.
I don't disagree.
So it's that's why I think it's always harder to translate fantasy from books onto film, because there's so much in those genres. That's why like the one book from Lord of the Rings took 3 movies that were all 6 hours long each, of a bunch of people walking. Like,
well, how many books was Game of Thrones?
5.
Game of Thrones was 5 books.
Well, technically, in the end, it's supposed to be 7 books, but only 5 came out, and the author's going to die before he finishes the last 2.
Yeah. I mean, and look at that. That gave us 8 seasons, and then now we're doing a prequel season.
Right, and the prequel season's based off of like a small portion of the 4th book. So I mean, they're turning that into an entire show for I think 5 seasons. They said they want to go.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
it's gonna be 5 seasons long. Jesus.
Whereas like a sci-fi book, you can kind of cut and paste and really really put into like 1, maybe 2 movies everything that happens in a sci-fi book, because sci-fi books are usually 1, maybe 2 books, 3 books, something like that.
I kind of would like the Hollywood to get back to just like 1 or 2 movies for a property and then just end it and move on. Everything's got to be a trilogy and 4 or more, and it's just like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, too much. We've talked about the part of the problem with Hollywood right now is just that they got to make money, and the business has changed, and with streaming and everything like that, like. Franchises
ran out of ideas.
Yeah,
it's not that they ran out of ideas. The ideas are all there. You can see it with like studios like A24. Like they're putting out fresh ideas for movies and stuff like that all the time. But big studios like your Warner Brothers, your Paramount, your Disney, and everything like that are not going to take chances on small movies that aren't going to that they're going to have to see their ROI for those movies. It takes years to get back the money that they're going to spend, and they don't have the type of patience or, I mean, listen, they got to make money. That's the whole thing.
Well, we're getting to a point now where they're not even making money back on big budget movies, aka Black Adam. Did you guys hear about that news? Let's go on a little DC rant. It's been a while. They're saying
it's ridiculous that movie counted took that much money to make.
They're saying that Black Adam right now looks like it's about to lose $50 to $100 million after the take the theaters get, after the marketing budget, and after the budget of the movie. So, sorry, Rock, but let James Gunn do his thing and step out.
It's also because I think what I heard was China banned the movie, so it never released in China. So that's a huge chunk of profit that they just couldn't tap into. Why did China ban the movie,
though? Did they ever announce?
I don't know. They just randomly ban shit all the time over there.
I believe it had to do with it being set in the Middle East, if I'm not mistaken.
Because there's nothing in the movie that seems like it would be disrespectful to China or like that.
I don't know, man.
They might have just banned it because The Rock's in it. To be honest with you,
they don't like him.
Yeah, who knows?
He's too big of a human.
Yeah, they might just not like him for whatever reason. Like China bans random ass shit all the time, trying to get studios
all the time.
I will tell you, I guarantee that when Black Adam is streaming, though, I think it's going to make up a lot of ground.
Well, that's
you know what I mean.
Yes,
I know so many people who were not impressed by the trailer and didn't even go see it because they're just waiting for it to come out on HBO Max.
But I don't think streaming is going to make it that much money though.
It's not gonna, I'm not saying it's going to make up whatever it lost, but I think it'll make up enough of it to show that there should be sequels and kind of carry it along. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's going to suddenly all of a sudden he's going to make another $100 million because of streaming.
Streaming money is a weird thing when it comes to movies because
that's true.
You don't get the streaming company doesn't get, or the studio doesn't get money for each person watching it on each stream unless it's paid
for every new subscriber, really.
Yes, and that's the streamer gets that money. Right. The streaming service gets. See, the problem with Warner Brothers is that they have their own streaming service, so they're not selling it to Netflix,
right?
So they can't get any money by selling it off to Netflix or Amazon or anything like that. They're throwing it on their streaming service to try and get new subscribers.
Yeah.
So if they don't get new subscribers, then they don't really get any money out of it from streaming.
Speaking of Warner Brothers, there was some news came out about Warner Brothers.
Speaking of fuck them.
Yeah. Ice Cube, I don't know if you guys heard this, but Ice Cube is basically demanding that Warner Brothers just hand him the Friday rights.
Friday, yeah.
So he could do
I did hear this, and I think it's smart because now that Discovery's in charge, he's probably thinking he has a chance. But
he flat out said, "I'm not." Number one, he's not going to pay for what's his. And if it wasn't for him, basically the first Friday movie, him and Chris Tucker, the first two Friday movies probably wouldn't have done well. But the second thing though is that he's been trying to get the movie released. Warner Brothers has just been being Warner Brothers and fucking it up, and he knows the fans want it, so he's like, look, give me the rights for free, I will make the movie, and then make you money. He flat out said it. He's like, so why should I have to pay for that? You'll make your money back.
Why would Warner Brothers give him the rights for free when they could just pay him to make the movie?
I'm sorry. They own the distribution rights. He owns the IP essentially. Okay. So he just wants them to give him the distribution rights so he can actually get it made and get it out there, because they clearly don't want to. They've been putting it on hold for years.
But then they lose everything. They don't make any money off of it then.
Well, he'll work out a deal. And I think what he's trying to say is come to me, give me, let's work it out, and I'll give it to you.
If he's saying, give me the distribution rights for free, then why would Warner Brothers ever do that?
Because why not? Because if you give him the distribution rights and then you basically work out a deal with him to make maybe, I don't know, 10%, 20%, whatever it is, on the overall profit of the movie, you're making something. Otherwise, it's just sitting there and you're not doing anything with it.
Distribution, but they don't have to do anything with it because.
But my point is, you have a person who actively wants to do something with it, so let him do it. The worst that happens is the movie makes no money because he wants to pay for it to be made by himself. He's not asking them for money, so just let him make it.
Yeah, but you're also giving up. Then what if it's a hit and then Warner Brothers doesn't get any money from it?
No, but that's my point. You got to negotiate.
But they're not going to give up. They're not going to give up distribution rights for a franchise movie like that.
The point is they're fucking up, and they have a guy who can do the fourth Friday movie.
This is Rocky all over again, bro.
Well, Rocky, that's a whole different thing, though, because Stallone doesn't own anything. He owns nothing about Rocky legally, besides the fact that he's just the face of the franchise.
I know.
And let's be honest, so Creed is, everyone's going to go see Creed 3 anyway, and Stallone's not even in it, so,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, they found a workaround for Rocky because now they're like, all right, we don't have to give you anything because you're not the face of the franchise anymore.
Yeah.
Now Michael B. Jordan is. So
and Michael B. Jordan's like, I'm sorry, Rock. I'm gonna just continue to keep my mouth shut and get my money.
Yeah, I think.
I'm just gonna keep getting signed to this role and make my money.
Yeah,
speaking of more Warner Brothers and DC fuck ups, The Flash, Scythe, you put it up on the Facebook group. The Flash's release date has been moved up. Now suddenly they're in a rush to kind of get this movie released. For a while, they just kept getting pushed back, and now all of a sudden it's coming out in March.
I mean, James Gunn's in charge now, so maybe he's just like, listen, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Get it out there so I can start doing my thing. Like, we recut the ends. Now it resets the whole universe. Now James Gunn's in charge. Let me do James Gunn shit now.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's funny because we got a Blue Beetle poster and a release date. We got the Flash release date with a new image. It literally is almost like James Gunn's like, all right, give me a list of everything that's been finished. All right, we're just going to release them now. All right, you come here, you come here, you come here. We got to get past them. Got to make the money back.
James Gunn has been very, very active on Twitter with a lot of cryptic fucking tweets right now.
So speaking of that, I saw your TikTok.
Yes.
Zuplex with the TikTok about the Kingdom Come storyline. You don't think he's going to be adapting that to the big screen?
So I don't know if you saw the one I stitched it from with Panda.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Panda Red.
Yep.
But basically, he was saying that he doesn't want them to make a Kingdom Come storyline, and I tend to agree with that because the Kingdom Come storyline is very difficult to put on the screen. Because basically, the Kingdom Come storyline was an answer to the '90s comics becoming ultra violent.
Okay.
Where they were like, we have to, like, these new heroes are too violent. The old heroes have to kind of step in and be like the superheroes again. And like be heroes again, not like vigilantes. So like they had to be like do some heroic shit and like some classic like superhero shit instead of just violence. So my theory is James Gunn's been using Kingdom Come to tweet out that because he's saying that he is the Kingdom Come storyline, that he is going to change the look and the feel and the violence and all that stuff and give us classic superhero stories again.
How is he going to change it, though? Like, he's going to dumb it down a little bit?
No, it's not dumb it down. It's just lighten it. Like, how many dark, gritty versions of these heroes do we need at this point? Like, you know, like, even Man of Steel, which was an amazing movie, it's like dark washed in...
Yeah, that's the Zack Snyder way, though.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's so heavy. Like Superman is not supposed to be a heavy character.
Right.
He's the Boy Scout, right?
Well, he's not hopefully James Gunn follows the, I don't want to say follows the Marvel route, but like hopefully he follows the Marvel route in the sense that each character, like the feeling of the movie will be dictated by the type of character it's about.
Yeah.
Versus like every movie, like Wonder Woman being gray and dark and Superman being gray and dark and all that nonsense.
That's what I'm saying. Like the Flash should never be gray and dark.
Right, he's supposed to be wear red, not like mustard or ketchup color.
But not even that. Like he's supposed to be fun.
Speaking of the Flash,
he's supposed to be a fun character. You know,
going back to the Flash real quick. One of the images that shown that was released, I think today or maybe yesterday, shows one of his alternate costumes in the movie, and people have figured out that it looks like it's an old Batman costume, essentially painted red, with a lightning bolt painted over the bat symbol. And what they're saying is that they think Michael Keaton, his Batman, essentially he uses a Michael Keaton Batman costume to create one for himself. Maybe it's like one of his first costumes or an alternate version of it.
Yay.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's like I'm reading it and I'm just like, oh,
I agree.
Gosh. I read a whole thing too about how Supergirl is basically going to take the Superman role in the Flashpoint storyline that they're kind of adapt.
God.
It's just like... You know, we're gonna have characters that haven't been established in like such major moments, and I'm just like, I can't. I just got to get past this movie.
I mean, it'll work for Flashpoint because it is an alternate future,
right? It kind of fits, you know.
So it'll kind of fit. They can kind of do whatever they want with it, which I think is good. But then again, like they don't have the track record of giving us good stuff when they can do what they want,
right?
So I don't know if it's necessarily a great thing. I mean, the Flashpoint storyline is such a fucking major storyline, and it's so in depth with what they did. Like there was offshoots for every book. Like there was Flashpoint Batman, there's Flashpoint Wonder Woman. There were so many different storylines that developed out of that. You know, you got the Wonder Woman versus Aquaman, the Atlantean War with Themyscira, and you got Bruce dying instead of his parents, and his dad going crazy and becoming Batman. And this violent Batman that uses guns, and his mom going so insane that she becomes the Joker. Like that right there, that storyline itself is such an insane storyline to have.
It really is. It really is.
You know, I don't see how
I just don't like. It's the wrong. I mean, I get why Flashpoint is the focus right now, and you know what the whole point is to kind of reset what we've gotten so far. You know, I get all that, but it's just another example of DC or Warner Brothers or whatever. It's just the wrong time for a storyline that major. You know,
it's terrible timing.
It really
especially
is.
With the universe rebooting.
like I would almost rather them. They can't, right? They spent so much money on the movie, but I would almost prefer if they were just like, look, let's just say none of it happened and we're just starting over. Like, you know,
I mean, they did that with Batgirl. They just canned that whole project.
I don't think Batgirl cost that much money. I think it was
$90 million. It cost $90 million to make Batgirl.
Yo, so think about how bad that movie must actually have been.
That's all I think about. It's like,
and people
I want to see it.
Of all the
people are petitioning James Gunn to release it or something like that. I don't think
I thought Warner Brothers like burned every copy of it. Like they showed it once to the cast, and then they basically
burned the footage.
Literally destroyed the footage. I'm pretty sure.
Think they ever do. They have a vault somewhere. There's a vault somewhere.
I gotta be honest, man. If they ever release it for HBO Max, if they ever say like, look, you know, we feel bad, and here you go, I'm 100% watching it. It's just gonna be so. It's got like I agree with you. Like, how bad could that movie have been? That when they watched it, they looked at each other and was like, nobody outside this room can lay eyes on this again. It's like the holy, not the Holy Grail, what was it from the first Indiana Jones movie where they opened it up and it killed everybody? The Ark of the Covenant. It's like their own version of that. They're like, we're gonna cause a plague. It's gonna cause people to get a phone call in 7 days. They're gonna die. Like, no, we need to. One of
them was just sitting there going like this. Hey, Bob, how much money did we spend on this?
Yeah.
90 million? Fuck.
You know, somebody jumped out a window. They probably watched it on the 30th floor, and as it ended, somebody walked to the window and just dove out. Like, I can't.
Just, like someone was like, I can't believe we spent $90 million on this. Oh my god.
But it makes me curious though. To me, that's the best marketing. They should continue to remind us about Batgirl for like another couple of years, and then suddenly be like, you know what? We're gonna release it because I guarantee it'll make $1 billion. People are gonna be like, all right, we want to see how bad this was.
That gave us Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Right. And they released that. They thought that was a good idea.
And they thought they marketed the shit out of it. They spent like $25 million in marketing alone for that movie.
They gave us cartoon Halle Berry versus cartoon Sharon Stone, and they thought that was worth it. Batgirl was made with love. I mean, when you listen to the directors who talk about Batgirl, they really gave it their all. They really wanted to do well.
I don't believe that it. Because like when I hear that director talk about that, or that star that was in Batgirl, all they talk about is how different it was and how woke it was and how liberating it was, and it was virtue signaling in a movie. Like, do we really need that anymore at this point? Like, it was meant to be made to just like straight up like, this is our version of Batman. You know, I don't know, man. I can't. I think it just went too far. And the studio just said, I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
I definitely agree. I'm sorry. My daughter's
no. I kind of want. I have to see this movie now just to see how bad it is, though.
I know.
I am too, because it's gonna rank up there with like The Room and some of these other really bad movies, Trolls 2. You know, like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's got to be that bad for them to just trash it like that.
For them to take a $90 million hit on that movie. Like,
right, nobody wants to lose money in Hollywood. Nobody wants to lose money in Hollywood. This is an industry that notoriously will do whatever they can to make every penny back.
The only way that they would trash that movie, because that cost $90 million, is if they had a bunch of analysts going, if we put this movie out, we will never be able to put out another superhero movie again, because no one will ever take us seriously. Right. So it'll save us money to not release it at this point.
Again, we're talking about the studio that released Batman and Robin, We're talking about the studio that re-edited Suicide Squad 1,000,000 times and released the garbage that we actually got. Like, they couldn't find an editing team that could put together a movie decent enough for them to go, okay, let's release this and see what happens. Or, like we said, put it on streaming.
Do we get the Ayer cut, though?
Nah. I don't even want it, to be honest. I feel like, at this point, it's like the Snyderverse version of Justice League. If it comes out and it's phenomenal, then it's just like all it does is kind of tease us because we're not going to get any more of it. Yeah. So just leave it alone. Let Sleeping Fish fly. Think about how much we wanted the Snyder cut to come back, the Snyderverse to come back after the Justice League there. So it's like, what's the point? We're gonna love it. The studio, okay, great. The studio was wrong. Awesome. James Gunn's gonna change it anyway. You know what I mean? So
I was thinking that we're not gonna get the Ayer cut because James Gunn already gave us the James Gunn version of Suicide Squad.
Pretty much. And honestly. Is there any hope that the Ayer cut is better than what James Gunn gave us? I doubt it. No, there's no way.
Not a chance.
James Gunn version was pretty flawless as far as the Suicide Squad movie.
It was sorrow,
right? And in a way where we were. I
think Will Smith slapping Chris Rock killed the Ayer cut.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Oh, Will Smith, you dog, you. Apparently,
his new movie, by the way, is tanking hardcore.
Well, nobody wants to see it. He's basically trying to be nice, right? He's trying to say like, I get it.
It's not a new movie.
Well, the marketing is almost non-existent because it's Will Smith. They don't want him. You can't put him on the face of anything right now. So.
It's wild.
I did read that James Gunn wants to do a Suicide Squad sequel at some point, but he wants to bring back Will Smith and have him and Idris Elba, so Deadshot and. What the hell is Idris Elba's character?
Bloodsport.
He kind of wants to have them almost interact in the sequel. It's again cool, not the worst idea, but that's not gonna happen for a long time. I mean, Will Smith has a lot of groveling to do before they put him in a big AAA comic book movie like that again. So.
I think it's gonna be a long time before James Gunn directs something in DC. I think he's going to be the puppeteer behind the scenes and not really handle the actual movies.
I don't think he really needs to direct. You know what I mean? As long as he's really involved in the process, I feel like we're going to feel his personality all over the place.
I think he's going to be the one picking directors, which I think is much more important. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Right, because he'll pick directors that kind of fit the story that they want to tell.
As we've learned. A director for these movies really, really means a lot.
Well, let's dive into that for a little, as the last topic. Because that was one thing that essentially was announced, I think, yesterday. I wanted to bring that up. This is about Marvel now. Feige basically announced officially that they're revisiting their slate of movies for the next 2 phases because they want to focus more on quality versus quantity. And essentially,
I thought you were going to say focus on Kwanha.
No. I should have done it. I missed my chance. I should have.
He wants to focus on Kwanha.
He wants to take everyone's helmet off, which they already do anyway for the future of the franchises. No, but it's basically him admitting that they came out with too many things too quickly. They didn't give the visual effects team enough time to
so speaking of that, I wanted to bring something up anyway. Do you know how many projects Marvel put out for Phase 4?
I never counted, but I'm going to guess 4 shows a year, 4 movies a year. So let's say almost 20 movies. 20.
Yeah, I was going to say 20.
17.
Oh, man. I was close.
17 total.
In 2 years.
Just in Phase 4. Between shows, movies, everything. There was 17 properties.
And then you want, it really you really feel for the teams that were working on those movies because you're talking visual effects teams that dealing with COVID protocols and having to send footage back and forth and all kinds of shit.
I would say it was 3 years, not 2. But
yeah, it was 3 years, I think.
Because they were working on it before release dates. And
but that's still a lot.
Insane though.
Before we were excited if we got 3 movies in 1 year.
You're talking about 4 projects a year,
right?
And it's basically, and this past year we got 6. So, I mean, that's a lot to be doing in one single phase.
Yeah. No, it used to be a big deal if they were releasing 3 movies in one single year.
Yeah.
It used to be like, oh shit, next year is going to be amazing. We got 3 Marvel movies. Now we've basically gotten used to a Marvel show for 6 to 9 episodes and then a movie. and then another Marvel show for 10 episodes. Then
if it was an Avengers year, you were only getting the Avengers.
That's true. Like
nothing else
you only got the one movie. That's right. And then they stopped.
Oh, that's
doing
not
that,
true.
So.
No, that's not true.
Oh, what? Well, no, maybe you got 2 movies then. You got like Avengers
Maybe
and one
you
other
got 2
follow up,
movies.
and that was it.
Yeah, you got one like May, and then you got
May
one,
was the big one. So May was the
May was
Avengers
the big
movie,
one,
and then
you
at
got
the end of the summer you
later
got
on,
like another one.
End of the summer, yeah,
or November even. You know.
yeah.
But
so,
I mean, my thing is, I don't want them to stretch out like everything that comes out. I just want them to tighten it up a little bit, I guess, if that makes sense. In other words, like maybe take away one show and one movie, but don't like go from where we are now to like, okay, you're just gonna get one TV show and 2 movies and call it a day for the year. You know what I mean? Like I like the how often we're getting stuff. You know, I just want them to make sure that it's done right. You know what I mean? And to me, it's like, you know, reschedule a movie if you have to, reschedule a show. I'm more than okay with it. You know what I mean? Make sure it looks good.
I think it's just the shows, man. They're pumping them out. Like, just if they push shows back a year, so instead of having 4 come out, they only do 2, and make like a spring fall release on those, and they really focus on CGI and all that stuff and get it right. And then they have plenty of time to work on the next 2 and the next 2. And it cramming 4 heavy shows on top of 4 heavy movies all in a year. It's like, dude, I would hate to be a graphic designer.
Well, I do think
for any of these movies or shows.
In defense of the graphic designers, I do think Marvel needs to take a step back and stop relying on CG so much. And I'm talking about not for like, you know, She-Hulk, like obviously she got to be CG, but scenes like in Spider-Man No Way Home where they have Flash standing in front of a green screen and he's supposed to be at some college party talking to Peter on the phone. Like that shouldn't be a green screen thing. That just costs a ridiculous amount of money. Like, you know, film it on a set where it makes sense and you can actually film multiple scenes.
It might actually cost more. It might actually cost more to go to a set then.
Well, if they plan it right, though, they can do all the set filming in 3 or 4 months again and add the CG stuff later. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I think the other thing too is Marvel focuses a lot on the reshoots and like after the movie's done, just kind of fixing scenes and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, you know, get your shit together, Feige. Although still, you know, he's still killing it for me. So
I think for the most part, like, you know, the quality has suffered a little bit from what we've gotten.
It definitely has.
But I think I think they were choosing the wrong people to helm some of these projects.
Yeah. See, like I feel like that's an example of them giving into the public. So there was a kind of a growing conversation about how every Marvel movie essentially looked the same. Or not looked the same, but felt the same. They all kind of followed the same cookie cutter kind of approach. Yeah. But that worked. I mean, very rarely did we complain about the way a movie was and kind of go, oh, it's the same thing. Doctor Strange is the same as Iron Man. Fuck, I don't like Doctor Strange. Everyone loved that stuff. You know what I mean? And then they gave Thor Ragnarok to Taika Waititi, and he did his own thing with it, and everyone fucking went ballistic for it. And I think that was the moment where Feige or Kathleen Kennedy or whoever was like, why don't we do that more often? And it's like, okay, but, you know, now you gave 7 different directors with very different styles, different movies, and
you gave them free reign almost.
You gave them too much control. Too much.
Yeah, you gave them too much control. That was one of the problems I think that, you know, that we've been seeing is that they gave these directors like Thor: Love and Thunder. They gave Taika way too much control over that movie.
Oh, 100%.
There's a good movie there if you rein him back a little bit and have him stick to an overall like theme, story, whatever. But they let him have way too much control over that. I think this goes back all the way to like Iron Man 3.
I agree.
You know, where they, you know, Iron Man 3 wasn't an Iron Man movie. It was a Shane Black movie. You know,
right.
They started letting these directors have too much of their own voice, too much of their own like vision for these characters when you've already set up a overall vision and voice for these characters. And
but that to that point though, Phase 4 was the time to give these directors their own more freedom and let them do what they wanted. Like I don't know that it worked, but it was the right time to do it, to experiment, because at least it changed it up a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
but
well, I mean,
here's hoping that for phase 5 and 6 they kind of go back to the, you know, we're going to control this shit kind of well.
Yeah.
Who's directing Quantumania? Do we ever look at that?
Peyton Reed, same guy who did the first two Ant-Mans.
Okay. All right, so that'll be kind of in the same theme, and
that'll feel the same. Wakanda Forever was directed by Ryan Coogler, so that'll feel the same.
That'll feel the same.
Yeah,
that felt the same. Like that's the way they got to keep going with this. But I think they got to find directors for their new characters now that are going to do the right thing. As far like they got to find somebody else to take on Thor at this point, because Chris Hemsworth is not.
Well, he flat out doesn't want to do it. I mean, he hasn't used the exact words of "I don't like Taika Waititi anymore," but he flat out was like, "They need a new director."
He said he doesn't want to work with any more visionary directors.
Yeah. He's done with him.
I don't blame him for that one bit.
But I mean, that's a big hit though, because everybody loved Ragnarok, and then you get the Love and Thunder, and it's like, what the fuck happened? Like, what happened between?
I was so amped for Love and Thunder too. What scares me though is Sam Raimi doing Fantastic Four, or I'm sorry, Blade. I think it's more up his alley, but it's also kind of like
it's more of his alley.
You gave him free reign with Doctor Strange 2, which was universally loved, the first one, and he basically ruined it. So it's like, Blade's a big character that people already have an established kind of like opinion about. And as much as this isn't the same Blade that we got before, everyone's going to expect a very similar kind of look and feel. So it's like, can Sam Raimi pull that off? I don't think so.
See, I think they should have gotten Coogler to do Blade.
I agree. I think
that would have been dope. Actually,
I would have been very amped if they chose him for sure.
I think Coogler's the right guy to do Blade. I don't think. Listen, I love Sam Raimi, but Sam Raimi does Sam Raimi movies.
No, right. I don't know that he knows how not to do a Sam Raimi movie.
In the original Spider-Man, like you saw what happened when they just it got too comic booky, so now he doesn't know what to do, and he's trying to make these weird fucking Venom thing, and Tobey Maguire's dancing, and he's got an emo haircut. Like,
Spider-Man 2 was probably the last. Like, they should have stopped with Sam Raimi at that point and given it to someone else.
Yeah, and they should have given it to someone else.
He got his little horror out there with Dr.
Why would you? Because he did so well with the first two. Like, you gotta like kind of let him keep going with it. But at the same point, it's like, and since then, what's Raimi done?
Garbage.
He did that
the Evil Dead remake was actually really good. So
the Evil Dead remake was good. Drag Me to Hell was decent, but they're small horror movies.
Right.
That's what Sam Raimi does best, is small horror movies.
Right.
Which is why Doctor Strange felt like a small horror movie with a wizard.
Yeah.
Like.
But it wasn't fantasy though. It was sci-fi.
Right.
But
wizards and witches
for upcoming
sci-fi.
They have to start really thinking about the directors. And I think that's been their problem so far, especially with the shows too. I think
Rules 11 says she loved Doctor Strange. Now, did you like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness or Doctor Strange 1? Because we all universally love Doctor Strange 1. I thought that was phenomenal. Scott Adkins is in it, so you can't really go wrong there. But the second one had a lot to be desired for us comic book nerds. All right, she said both. All right, I don't know.
I liked it more than you guys did, but we've talked about that in the past where my hopes weren't that high for it, so I think I got exactly what I was expecting.
I think what killed it for me was the musical note battle.
Yeah, that was
oh my god, that was rough.
What would have saved that scene is if Scott Pilgrim walked out with a guitar and started playing bass and helped him out.
That would have been amazing. Yeah, look, the movie had its problems, but overall, I didn't hate it.
Overrule says ever since Iron Man died, Doctor Strange is her favorite. I don't disagree. I love Doctor Strange. You know what I mean? I think he's freaking phenomenal. I just think that movie didn't do him justice. It was too quick.
Yeah, this isn't against Benedict.
Yeah,
Benedict's amazing on the role. Like he acts it out. But I think it's more along the lines of it was a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, honestly, Wong took over as like the best wizard in the MCU. I think.
Well,
he's my boy.
Wongers is the best.
Wongers.
Sorcerer Supreme.
He's the Sorcerer Supreme. We got to see where all that's going to head to. There's so many questions we have with the MCU. What's next? Quantumania, and then what's after that?
We got Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy.
So phase 5, we're still doing wrap-ups.
Pretty much. I mean, but the next
Quantum's not going to be a wrap up. It's going to be more of
we're technically doing wrap ups, but everything from this point on is pushing towards Kang.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like, we should feel more of a direct line or direct connection to Kang Dynasty. So, we'll see what happens, if it's a good thing or not. I think it's going to be a good thing. One thing everyone's wanted is more cohesion with the movies. I feel like we're going to get that. We might finally start getting some end credit scenes that matter. So
they've been slacking on those end credit scenes.
Well, they've been nothing but jokes, and I'm okay with one being a joke here and there, but like they're all just nonsense jokes. Yeah. If you even get one, because in Wakanda Forever, Ryan Coogler thought it was too cool. He didn't give us one. So,
No, I mean that from what I understood, that was a choice based off of Chadwick's death to give us.
I don't give a shit. I waited to the end credits. I want an end credits scene, damn it.
You're just mad because you waited, bro. That's it.
Yes, I'm not denying that. Yes, I'm angry that I waited to the end credits.
Don't Google this beforehand.
No, why would I do that and see a spoiler? We're living in the internet.
That's a bad call.
We're living in the. I'm going to say one thing and we're going to end it. We're living in the world of the internet where if I Google tonight, if I Google Willow, every thumbnail I see is going to be like Warwick Davis dying and be like, spoilers ahead.
Yeah,
like
I'm going to teach you the trick here. You type into Google how many end credit scenes are in whatever you're watching, and it just comes up with like. It's got 2 end credits.
No, the first link is going to be Chadwick Boseman appears in Wakanda Forever.
Right.
I'm going to be like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, no way. I will stay off the internet. If I don't want to be spoiled.
All right, then don't be mad when they don't give you that second end credits.
You can't give me, what are we at now? 30 movies at this point? And even, and let's include the shows too. And at every end credit scene, because every finale of every show they release has a scene at the end of the credits. And you give me a scene, and then suddenly, without warning, go, nah, we didn't feel like doing it this time.
Are you mad at Endgame?
Go screw yourself. What'd you say?
Are you mad at Endgame?
Yes. Why wouldn't we get an end credit scene for Endgame? Yes, absolutely. I waited for the end fucking credits.
Because it was the end of the saga. There was nothing. There was no scene.
It still doesn't make any sense. It makes no difference.
And that's why Coogler didn't put one in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, because it was the end of T'Challa's story.
Fuck no. Honestly, the scenes with fucking Martin Freeman and Alessa Vantega Conquistador, that could have been an end credit scene. Him getting released from prison could have been an end credit scene. That didn't need to be in the middle of the movie to make it even longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're ranting. Now we're ranting for too long. Real quick, before we just sign off, we've jumped up a good amount in followers on Twitch, on YouTube, Facebook, on TikTok. We appreciate everyone who's jumping in.
Thank you, Transformers fans.
Following. Thank you, Transformers fans. We hear you. The message is loud and clear. We are actively talking about some more Transformers content. I actually am not a giant fan of Transformers. I don't not like it. I just never got into it.
You watched our reaction. What did you think of the trailer though?
So my thoughts on the trailer are it looks like another shitty Michael Bay version. However, and I'll tell you one reason, honestly. It doesn't look like a shitty Michael Bay version, to be honest. Bumblebee, to me, is the best Transformers movie. I think, for me, it looked the best. It had the most cohesion. It wasn't too long. Pacing was good. The scene in the trailer for Rise of the Beasts, at the end of the trailer, where it's just this big battle and just long takes of Transformers changing and fighting, and I don't even know where it takes place. That, to me, when I saw that, I said out loud to myself, because I was in the car, I said, this is what Transformers are supposed to be. This scene right here is what I want for every Transformers movie. What upsets me,
they need to get rid of the humans.
100%.
What they need to do.
100%. But what upsets me is that I know that when the movie comes out, that scene is going to be like somebody describing some battle from history. It's going to be 5 minutes of that, what we just saw, and then they're never going to show it again. And we're going to cut to the humans, and they're going to be the focus. And that just bothers me. I want robots fighting robots, transforming, and going at it. But, hopefully I'm wrong. Honestly, hopefully I'm wrong, because that scene gave me chills. I was so like, this is what I fucking want in every Transformers movie. But I just don't think it's going to happen.
You don't like the human aspect of the Transformers movie?
Fuck the human aspect of Transformers.
I mean, they've brought me Transformers. They've brought me some of my favorite moments, though.
What, like Sam Witwicky getting licked by a robot in the throat? Like, come on. Like,
No,
fuck out of
actually,
here.
you never see
the first movie was like the best one with the humans.
But that was going to say the first
that was
movie
probably the first. Yeah. That was where the humans annoyed me the least.
Tyrese and Josh Duhamel are fighting in the
amazing
in the desert and everything like that, and they're fighting, and Josh Duhamel's trying to get a call out, and he needs a credit card.
Yeah,
and he's like, "I need a credit card," and Tyrese is shooting. He's like, "Left cheek, it's in my pocket." Like,
yeah. I mean, that one was probably but that was also one of the shorter Transformers movies, wasn't it? Like every single one after that was like 2.5 hours or more. And like, listen, I like Shia LaBeouf. I think he's a good actor, but you know, that quick, like, you know, stuttering, quick talking, like nervous version of him, it gets old quick. And by the end of the second one, I was like, all right, we need to move on. Mark Wahlberg was like, I guess, okay, but by that point, we just don't need humans. I want to focus. I want Optimus Prime to be the main character. You know what I mean? I want Optimus Prime to be the one we focus on, or Bumblebee, or somebody like that. Like, I want the robots to be the main characters. We don't always need some nonsense human to be the surrogate for the audience. Why can't we just focus on the fucking story that we want to see? No one's going to. I tell you right now,
I agree.
Even if you never heard of it, no one's going to a Transformers movie after seeing those trailers wanting a human to talk. They want robots to fucking fight. That's what they want. So that's my angry rant about Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
You're not wrong. It's my biggest problem with the movies. Outside the first one, they just started going downhill, and it's just like a corny joke after corny joke and weird
And I would
human
argue
elements
they all
that
have
don't
some
need
good
to be
action.
happening.
Like every single one of them has good action, but we have to sit through 40 minutes of humans, you know, talking before we get to
about something. Yeah.
Transformers 3, that was the one, Dark of the Moon or whatever it was. That one had probably, in my opinion, one of the best battle scenes of all the Transformers that we've gotten so far. But before that, we had very little to no battle. It was just human shit. And I remember I was so friggin' bored. And then they start taking over the city, and the battle starts. Then Optimus shows up, and then you're like fired up and amped up. But like, you know, I don't need the humans. I just don't need that. That frustrates me to no end. We've talked about it with Mortal Kombat too, just throwing some random character in there because they think we're too stupid to just like follow along. Like, I don't know. I don't get what the thought process is, but it happens to every movie. Some Hollywood exec is like, well, I don't know what's going on. You need to put a human in there that's going to explain things for me.
There needs to be a love story.
Yeah.
It's a Quan Ha effect.
It's the Quan Ha
you need
effect.
a likable person to follow.
And Quan Ha is another good example, right? In Halo, we want to follow Master Chief. Nobody wants to follow anyone else but him. Literally, not one person on the planet who turned that show on wanted to follow anyone else. And instead they go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce this character. It takes up half the time. Nobody knows who she is, and nobody cares. But, you know, she can answer questions for us. Like, fuck you, man. I hate it. They need a character. This is my point. You guys are going to hate me for this. But this is my point with the Sonic movies. They had to throw James Marsden in there so he can ask questions. Where are you from? What are you? Why do you run so fast? Or, you know, make Sonic the main character and don't give me the human. I don't need it. I don't need it at all. It's so annoying.
That one was about Sonic getting a family, bro.
Yeah, the first movie should have given us Knuckles and Tails. All right? That's his family. That's his fucking
family. But then you don't get a second movie.
The second movie, there's a million Sonic characters. You could have the fishing guy, whatever his name is. The pink one.
About any other Sonic characters in Knuckles and Tails.
Shadow? Come on.
Shadow. After those three, no one gives a fuck about any of the.
All right, good.
Fishing guy. Here's how much you don't give a fuck about him. You don't even know his name.
I don't know his name. I only played as him in the Dreamcast version because I wanted to unlock the true ending. And all his levels were just fishing. But so here's kind of just bringing it full circle, and then we'll end the show. I said before, we don't need trilogies. They could have done one Sonic movie. It could have been good. You move on. We don't need any more. Yeah. Then turn it into a cartoon and leave us alone. But all right, with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you guys for arguing with me for an hour.
We give the updates on the channel.
Oh, yeah. God, we had so much going on now. So Oversell Podcast, our wrestling fanatic Zuplex over here is coming out. I think we're going to push for every Tuesday. We're trying to get that to come out, right? In the afternoon. MVP, hosted by ScytheX over here. That's every other weekend. He does it live on Twitch. And then are you shooting for Tuesdays, or are you just, after you do it live, you're going to put it on the YouTube?
It'll probably be on YouTube a day or two after.
Okay, so
it's live.
So if you want to join in live, keep an eye out on the Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, that's basically where all the announcements come first, and then you can join us on all the live shows. The Theater Room will come out Thursday on YouTube as well. We also have the trivia challenge that the captain is hosting.
Round 2.
We're on to round 2. We had 16 competitors. We're down to 8, and that's gonna once he gets those recorded, we'll get those up on the YouTube as well.
Am I the only one of us left?
Yeah, we're all out.
Yeah.
Everyone else is out. We do Old Rules 11.
Yeah, and a shout out for One Shot for not even participating.
Well, I don't think he got invited, which is I don't think he knew about it when John was trying to recruit people. He maybe was sleeping or working, and he couldn't.
That sucks.
Time, so
I was like, well, he's the only one that didn't join.
No, he probably would have. Yeah, I'm sure he would have. O Rules 11. We do have a Discord. It's GGENetwork. You can basically find us under that name.
I think if you do command Discord and chat, it should pop up. I think.
I can't type in the chat for some reason. Sure. It's not letting me. So if you want to do it real quick.
Is your keyboard plugged in?
Yeah, it's plugged in, but I have to log in or something. I don't know why. I'm literally streaming on Twitch, and when I go to comment on Twitch, it tells me I have to log in again, and it doesn't save the information. So, train wreck. That's the name of the game with our
By the
podcasts.
Way, Merchville.
So, yes,
train wreck.
I got the train wreck shirt on. If I can get around the microphone. We have our GGEN mugs, GGEN hoodies and hats.
Yep.
GGEN t-shirts. We're all over the place. So, yeah. We got a lot of shit going on. There's the Discord right there, Nightbot. Thank you for throwing that out there. And we
also got another unboxing video coming from me.
Yes, we got an unboxing video, and also if you are thinking about getting into comic book collecting, Zuplex also kind of narrowed down the 10 best or 9 best. I think it was comics that you should look into. 10 best comics you should look into. Keep an eye out for those 2 videos. The plan is
that month to month.
That'll be month to month, but the plan is for those videos to come out this weekend. So.
With the key list
and the unboxing from the CGCs. And I mean, I don't know. We've been talking about a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so we just got a lot going on. We have a giveaway going on right now. If you check out the YouTube, the link for it is on there. Spread the love and spread the word. We also have Patreon.
Tell your friends.
Which we have to start posting more things to. But I mean, we all got full-time jobs and families, so we do our best. Thanks for jumping in, guys. Thanks for everyone who jumped into the chat. And I will see you next week, Tuesday at 8:30 live for the theater room, or you'll see it on Tuesday next Thursday.